So a wind turbine, what does a wind turbine look like? I'm just going to grab my pictures.
It's like a base and a pole and fins.
Base, a pole, and fins. Absolutely. And we're going to get that terminology down. So we're going to call this the tower. Maybe a little too tall for my tower, but that's a tower. So that may be what you're thinking is the base. And so a foundation, a tower, okay? And then he said fins. And so in this case, we'll do it like a big commercial scale turbine. We have one, this one goes off the thing, and then one that goes kind of over here by my name. Okay, we're going to call those blades. So I have the tower. I have blades. What other parts does it have?
Foundation.
Yep, foundation. Okay. What do you think that's made of when they build a big one?
Concrete. Concrete.
It's concrete. That's right. A lot of concrete. A piece of concrete about as big as this room. As deep as this room and as big as this room. Now, really what they are is they're a little flatter, not quite as deep. They're only about 6 or 7 feet deep, but that's about this deep and bigger than this room. Big piece of concrete. Now, when you see a wind turbine, do you see that concrete?
No.
No. Do you see the foundation of your house?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but your house has a big foundation underground too. It's hidden, but it's there. It's under the ground. What's it for?
Keeping. Right?
Yeah.
It's for keeping it stable.
Yeah, keep it from falling over. Meg, would you help him find a chair? It's to keep it stable, keep it from falling over, because if I have the wind blowing on it, it wants to fall over, and we've got to keep it from falling over. It's got to keep it up there. All right, are we missing any parts on this turbine?
The motor?
Okay, we're at the generator. Yeah, absolutely. And the generator is going to live in a box up here. So I'm going to draw it kind of sideways a little bit. And so I've got this box, and the generator is going to live inside that box. And so I'm going to draw the generator inside that box. Okay? That's the generator. The generator is actually what's generating electricity. What else is there? Is that blade connected to anything?
I was going to say the things that connects the blades. The
thing that connects the blades. We're going to call this the generator, G-E-N. We're going to call the hub, and the hub is going to connect the blades together. And then this blade, I'm going to redraw kind of back. It's going to actually going back behind here. And so this is going to be the hub. Okay, so now I have hub, generator, and then this whole thing we're going to call the nacelle. All right? And if you were in the term nacelle, the only time you really ever see that otherwise is that the body of the plane is called the nacelle, when they have the body of an airplane. Ever been in an airplane? Okay? It's kind of just a big long tube, isn't it? Well, guess what this is? This is kind of a short tube. It's about the size of a school bus on a big turbine. So if we had a turbine, that one we just drew, looks kind of like this. And so we could name those parts, right? What part is this?
Tower.
What part is this? What part is this thing?
Generator.
The generator's inside. What's the whole thing called? The nacelle. Inside is the generator. And what's the front of it called? That holds the hub. Right, the hub holds the blades together. And so you think our turbines are going to have those parts?
Nope. No. Well, yeah.
Every single one of those parts our turbine's going to have. Our base is going to be made out of wood. Our tower is going to be made out of a piece of plastic tube. Our nacelle is going to be made out of a piece of PVC. And then our hub is black and holds the blades together. You'll see that. Our blades, you actually get a design and make. And then our generator is just a little motor. But when you take a motor and you give the motor electricity, it spins. But if you spin it by giving it energy in some other form, it turns itself into a generator. So it's both. A motor is a generator, and a generator is a motor. In our case, it's going to be a generator because we're going to be using it to create electricity.
like my brother's toy train, it moves because it has an engine or the engine pushing it, but then if you turn it backwards, it burns out the motor.
Right, and you can hurt motors. Some motors aren't made to be turned backwards very well because they don't have the electronic parts. These they can. And his is a motor too, but because when you turn it backwards, it's got some different components that don't let it. Okay, so we got that turbine down. Is this a wind turbine?
Yes.
Is this the same kind of wind turbine?
No.
Does it have all the same parts?
Yes. Yes.
It does, but it sure looks different, doesn't it? It sure looks different, okay? So this one, if this is my generator, and it has a shaft right here that connects this to the hub, this is horizontal, right? It's side to side, okay? This one, the shaft, this one has a tower that's kind of short. It has a generator and a shaft that goes this way. What do you call it when something goes up and down?
Vertical.
Vertical. This is a vertical axis turbine because the shaft goes up and down. And then on top of that shaft, I've got blades. And in this case, my blades are kind of, look like a shell a little bit. And if I was to look at that from straight down, if I was going to look at that from above, what that might look like is two halves of a shell, and then my shaft is in the center. And then if the wind blows here, it causes this to spin around in this direction. All right? And so this is a different type of turbine than this because it's in the vertical axis, and also because of the types of blades it has. Those blades are very solid, right? If I look at that from the front again, and I was to look at that, here's my base, my generator, my shaft, and then I've got a blades on it, and so they look, if I kind of looked at them, I'd have a like this, kind of a, okay? Right? And something like that. But look at how much space. This is very solid because all this is solid material. How much solid is this? This whole area that I'm looking at here, only this is solid, and this is solid. So this is a very high solidity turbine, or has a lot of solid area. This one does not. Which one is better? I'm not telling. How are we going to tell? Would you step outside and see if Amber's here? I'm sure that's what it is. How are we going to tell?
Which one generates more power?
Aha! How are we going to find out which one generates more power?
By testing it.
By testing. You're right.
You're going to make one, and we're
No,
going to make one.
you're going to make one.
And then I'm going to make one.
You're going to make one. You're going to make one. You're all going to make one and test. And I actually want you to make both. Because that's one neat thing about the design that we have is that we can make both. Let me show you how we can make both really quick, and then we'll get into talking about something else. Talk about wind for just a minute, and then we'll eventually get to making turbines. So what I've got is the turbine. It's going to sit, here's my tower, here's my nacelle, here's my generator. My generator is going to, the wires are going to go inside, and we'll take them apart so it works better. We stick that nacelle, or the generator here. So there's my generator. What type of turbine is this? Is this a horizontal or vertical axis? Horizontal. The axis is this little piece here. Oh, there you are. She just went out the door behind this way looking for you. Thank you so much. That was exactly what I need to say. That's right. More is better. The broke one didn't have enough. So there is a horizontal axis because it's an axis in this direction. Now, if I were to take this and just, instead of putting that on like this, I put it on the top, guess what? Now I'm vertical axis. And I can make this turbine either be that type of turbine or be the horizontal axis, and I can do it in the same nacelle. And that actually is pretty neat because we can do different designs. Okay. She just came from behind. Okay. So we got turbines. We understand that. Now, we're talking about wind power today. What are we trying to generate?
Power.
What is power?
Electricity.
Oh, electricity. What do we use electricity for?
To turn on lights, TV, stuff that has everything. Computers.
Computers.
Laptops.
Anything electronic.
Food.
To cook food, our stove, microwave,
Zap yourself.
fridge. What's that?
Zap yourself.
Oh, to shock yourself if you had something.
Like for electricity powers,
Okay.
for like dogs.
Electric collars, we charge that with battery. Yep, that battery's got to get charged up by electricity. Now, how do we generate electricity?
Windmill.
That's one way.
Generators. Batteries.
Generators.
Magnets.
Well, you're all kind of right. What we need to do is we need to spin a generator.
With wind.
And when we spin a generator, we spin a magnet inside a coil of wire. And so if I had a generator, let's just draw one quick, just for fun. If I had the generators that we have, this is a big version, have a magnet and a magnet inside them. And so they have two magnets, a north and a south pole magnet. And then inside of that, they've got this big coil of wire that's coiled around like this. And then they've got a shaft that's right through the center. So I'm looking right towards the front of it that I took it apart. When I spin this coil of wire inside that magnet, I excite the electrons in that coil of wire, and the electrons flow out through the wire. I have a wire on this side and a wire on that side. If I were to connect a light bulb, it would light up. Because the electrons are excited, they flow through here. They give their excitement to the light bulb. That excitement turns into light and heat, and then the electrons actually flow back around. And so really the electrons, it's more of the excitement is flowing more than the electrons are flowing, but the excitement flows, and that's how that generator works. Now, I've got to have something to spin this generator. It doesn't spin itself. So I've got to have something to spin it. In this case, the wind turbine is going to spin it, but this electricity didn't come from very many wind turbines. It came from other things that are spinning that generator. What's spinning the generator?
Yeah.
What's that? Are you on a bike? You could be on a bike and spinning a generator. Yeah, I'm talking to you. So.
Yeah, water.
It could be water, hydro. Absolutely. We could drop water down a hill and spin the generator with the moving water.
Water, so you pretty much use steam.
Right. That's the most common way we do it, is that we use coal. We heat that coal up, or that we burn that coal. We heat the water. It turns into steam. When steam it gets really hot and we start to cool it, it expands and gets really big. And when it expands, it spins the generator. It spins the turbine, which spins the generator, right? And so we're actually using coal. We're using heat to spin the generator, because all we're wanting is that spinning motion. What else might do it?
If you had a big enough generator, you can make it use a tiny bit of electricity to keep the piston going, to make it settle.
The challenge that you have is that I can't use electricity to create electricity, because that's creating something out of nothing. We've got to, you can't, nothing's free. You've got to use energy to make energy, and nothing's free.
Actually, you could. You just need to make use electricity to spin the copper wires.
Okay, if I'm doing, you're right. So let's say I had a battery. Let's say this was a battery. Okay? And I gave the electricity to this. Then this spins, right? Because now it's a motor. and it's not a generator. And all I'm getting is the spinning. Now, if I hook that motor to another generator and I spun it, I would get electricity. But I would get less than my battery gave me to begin with. I'd have losses. Again, it's not free. And what charged the battery to begin with?
Electricity.
Electricity from a different source. And if I were to hook this generator back to that battery, it would stop working in just a few minutes because nothing's free.
Geothermal energy.
Geothermal is a good one. We can use this, the heat of the earth can do that.
Solar.
Solar, absolutely. We can use sunlight directly to electricity. Tidal, we don't do that very much, but there's a few places on Earth that you do use it, basically using the fact that the water in the ocean goes up and down. Again, because we have that height difference, there's that difference in energy, of potential energy, we can drop that water down and use it. Okay, so we've gotten all those different things. So why is wind better than some of the other options?
It's cleaner.
It's cleaner. How come? What makes it cleaner?
You burn coal or other types of fuel, it gives off like gases, greenhouse gases.
That's right. Absolutely. Right
Right.
here. Yep. John.
Oh, it has less of an impact on the earth.
And it has less of an impact on the earth because what she said, right? So you guys are all right, and we're going to move on, but instead of taking all the comments, but you're absolutely right. If I burn this with a fossil fuel or with coal or something like that, if I make it out of that, I give off lots of nasty stuff, not just carbon dioxide, but other nasties, and wind is better in that respect. Now, wind's not perfect. Right now, it's difficult to have all of our power come from a source like wind, but we can have some of it, and that's where we're building turbines, and they're getting better, and we're going to see you as engineers how good you are at wind turbine design today. So let's first talk about wind. Wind has energy. Is that right?
Yeah.
It has energy. Just like if I were to throw something, this has energy because it's moving. They call that kinetic energy. And the kinetic energy, the amount of energy it has, is equal to how big it is and how fast it's going. So wind has mass. Wind are little particles. What's wind made of?
Oxygen, carbon dioxide.
Oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, absolutely. Little tiny molecules. And those little tiny molecules are moving. And they're all moving, and so they have kinetic energy. Just like this has kinetic energy if I were to throw it, the wind molecules have kinetic energy. But all together, it takes a lot of them to have a lot of energy. If they're going faster, they have more energy. Think about standing outside on a really windy day. Is it sometimes hard to walk into the wind that's pushing on you?
Yeah.
Because when that wind is very fast, it's got more energy than if it's slow. And so we're not going to go outside today. Sometimes I go outside, but it's kind of chance of rain, so we're not, and do more of some observations of the wind. But the wind I brought today is going to be from the fans. But we're going to use the high setting because we want as much energy as we can hitting our turbines. And in this case, so that wind, if we've got our turbine, our nacelle, our hub, our blades, and the wind is coming in this direction and hitting them, the wind strikes this blade, it gives up some of its energy and causes that blade to spin, right? And that's the whole principle of what wind power is. And so if I made a little small turbine, would it have as much power as a big turbine?
No.
Why not?
Generators.
Well, what if my generator was the same size?
It couldn't produce enough.
Remember, the generator is that small piece in here. It's not the blade. So if I had a turbine that was this big, what if I had one that was just this big?
It wouldn't catch as much wind, so it wouldn't make as much energy.
It wouldn't catch as much wind, and so it wouldn't make as much energy. Look how much wind this one catches. Look how much wind this one catches. Which one's bigger? Top one. This one's going to generate more energy. Now, so when you build your turbines, Do you want your blades to be little or big? Big. But this is also engineering design, and we also have to think about what are our constraints. You know what constraint is? What might a constraint be? What does it sound like?
It's a limitation.
It's a limitation. What am I limiting? What's limiting me in this? Well, I'm going to tell you that my wind is only this wide. So if my turbine was bigger than that, is it getting any wind out here? No. So your turbines should be smaller than the fan, right? The total diameter should be smaller than the fan, and that's just because our wind is only that big. If we were going to put this outside, could it be bigger?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is something you can test at home. You could make one bigger. You still have a limitation, because if you make it too big, your blade's going to hit the bottom because they're only so tall, right? But you can make them bigger when you go home. Okay, let me make sure I'm... All right. How do I know how fast the wind is going?
Well, you can measure it in RPMs.
I can measure how fast this is spinning in revolutions per minute, but I can't, that's not wind speed. Wind speed would be in a different set of units. You're not far off. Let's go over here.
Miles per hour plus force.
You're not close. I can measure it in units of miles per hour, but let's just start here. If I look out the window, can I tell it's windy?
Yes.
I can't. Do I know how fast that wind is going? No, but I know if it's windy or isn't windy. How do I know if it's windy outside?
Moving objects.
Moving objects. What moves when it's windy?
The trees.
The trees. So the trees go like this. What moves when it's windy? Connor?
Bushes.
Bushes. They're down here shaking. Little shorter limbs. What else moves when it's windy?
Grass.
Grass. Especially if it's really windy, that short grass is even moving. What else moves when it's windy? We forgot to think about it. What might move this windy?
Plants.
Plants. What kind of plants?
Basically.
Anything. Anything that's sticking out. How about what's moving?
If you left paper outside, it would definitely move.
Anything that's out there. Paper. I got my trash can got knocked over, and now the papers are going all over. Now it's really windy. How about fins? A flag. Flag's a good measure. And so because I can see, is that flag sagging down? Is that flag flying? Is it fluttering in the wind? What's it doing out there? And so I can look out there. And if we were to practice, and if we made a scale and said that 1, 0 is no wind, and 10 is like crazy tornado wind, if we practiced, we could look out the window and say, I think it's a 6 out there today. And if we did this together, and we did it a bunch of times, and we did this a lot, we could go out and kind of agree, wouldn't we? We would look at a flag and we say, that thing is kind of about half up. Well, that's about a 4. Look, that flag is flat. It's an 8. Oh, that tree branch just broke off and a piece of the roof flew off. It's a 10. Right? And so before we had measurements for wind, we had a scale like this. And it was invented by people that really depended on wind, and that was the sailors. Because that boat moves by wind, old sailboats, and they invented a scale like this, and they practiced and practiced and practiced, and they said, I think it's 8 today. And then they would tell stories, and they'd say, oh, it was the worst wind I'd ever seen. It was probably a 9. And they would just, and they did this so much that they got pretty good at it. But if we were to go outside today, and do this scale, would we agree?
No.
Is it raining outside?
No, it's definitely go outside.
We want to. Okay. What we're going to do is we are going to go outside for just a few minutes, and I want you to do, we're going to do 2 things. I want you to do, we just invented this scale just now. 0 is nobody. Let's kind of put some parameters on it. 10 is a tornado. It's not out like that out there today. Okay? If the flag is flat out, we're at 7 or above. If the trees are just barely moving, we're at about a 2. Kind of get an idea of where we're at on that scale? Okay? I want you to go out and without talking to a lot of people, I want you just to look around. Just a second. I'm sorry, I don't mean to. Just a second, I'm sorry. And I want you to look around and do that. Then, once you've got that number, I want you to remember it because I don't want you to change it. Then you get to come over to me, and maybe in groups or kind of help each other, we're going to take a real measurement. In this case, our real measurement, this is called a cup anemometer, and when the wind blows, it spins. You're going to hold that up, and then these are right now are measuring in miles per hour, and you can read the number on that as you hold it up. Also, I get these to work, we'll see.
GPS.
That's not GPS. This is also an anemometer, and we'll get these modes set, and you can get the wind blowing, and that's a little fan in there, and it's not a fan, it's actually measuring the wind, and you can then see the number, okay? And I'm going to see if I can get these changed to all miles an hour. And so first of all, we're going to go out and we're going to measure on this scale. Remember your number, and then find one of us and get one of these. Once you're done with this number, remember this number, and then give this to somebody else, okay? All right, we're going. Okay, you take these two and hand them out when they are ready. I'm going to try to get these modes set to miles per hour. They're on meters per second.
We named the first one already, so you can jump in on the second press. Go ahead, jump in, Well, how many people are happy? Should be fine. Jump in. Yeah, great answer.
Yeah, just go right ahead.
Okay.
You know what to do. That's gotta be working.
Then let's see if we can set the tray in here. And then we can always have another plate. Tree. We bet at least one more.
These people have, let's get it out of this one, so they have.
I wonder if we can now put them in that one with parchment paper. Classic leftover.
Yeah, I like his brother. His brother is awesome. Your little brother? What? My what? Which one? Which one? Your marketing. Like the baby? No. Okay. Like the. It's just yeah. Is that good? Sean. What? Sean. Yes. What was he doing? He's like when we were like coming at our boats and then get out and come back in and come back out.
All right, good job. Now, let's evaluate.
It lost the connection when you went out.
Okay, who's got the anemometers? There. A couple there. One up here. Okay, check. Shut these off. All right. In our Beaufort scale, that our invented Beaufort scale that we did, what numbers did we come up with? Let's start here and just go around. Tell me what number you did when you came up with this 1 to 10 scale.
7.5.
7.5.
7.5. For partners.
Oh, 7.5.
Are you talking about the anemometers?
Not the anemometer. I'm
Oh,
talking
not
about
the
this scale, this 1 to 10
okay.
scale.
I thought it was 1. 2,
2,
2, 2, 3, 1, 2,
2, 1, 2, 2, 1,
3, 1.5,
2,
3,
I'm gonna say 3.
3,
4,
1, 2,
3,
2, 3, 4, 2.
Okay. 2. All right. Were they the same?
No. I know. 1, 2, 3.
Why were they different?
And 4. Different opinion in 4.
They're different for really 2 major reasons. One is different opinions or different perception. Is how do I interpret whether that flag is flat out or whether that flag is flopping just a little bit. When I look at it at that moment, I might think it's one thing, and another person might say, no, I think it's really flat out. I think it's really stronger than that. And so there's perception, there's opinion, okay? What are the reasons might they be different?
The time that they were looking.
The wind is different in different places at different times because it gusts, because it's just different. And so if you were standing over there and I was standing over here, we're looking at different things, not only are our perceptions different, but the wind is different. And so this is really subjective, and to get it right takes a lot of practice where we would all agree that a 3 is a 3, and a 4 is a 4, and a 1 is a 1. As well as really to do that, we would all need to be looking at the same thing to try to do that. So this is not necessarily the best measure, but before we had good measurement tools, it worked pretty good, and that was all they had. So now let's talk about the anemometer measurements. What were some of those numbers? And I'm not going to get everyone, but I'm just going to go around.
7.5.
Theirs was 7.5. Let's do John.
1.75.
1.75. Let's do David.
7.
What was it?
7.
7. Okay, let's do India.
2.5.
Lydia. You said 2.5?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your name?
Riley.
Right.
6 flat.
6. 6.0.
1.9.
1.9. How about
6.5.
6.5? 1.9, 6.5. How about over on this side? Taylor.
6.9.
6.9. Okay. Now, you'll notice that if we were to really go down this list, there's a lot that are fairly close. They're all in that 6, 7 range. There's a couple lower ones. They must have been standing in a spot with a little less wind. But also, look at the accuracy of these numbers. They are not just a subjective whole number. We have 7.5. Which one do you think is more accurate? These numbers or these numbers?
These numbers. Right.
They're more accurate. And if we were trying to decide how much wind was in a place, we're going to put a wind turbine, these numbers are going to be more of what we want. And a good example is that there are people in Lincoln that will say, well, Lincoln is really windy place. But if I was actually measuring the wind speed in Lincoln, Nebraska, I would not want to put a wind turbine in Lincoln, Nebraska. I would want to put it 15 to 20 miles outside of Lincoln, Nebraska. And that's because, if you can see here, this is my wind map of the state of Nebraska at 100 meters, football field off the ground. All right? And you can see that the good wind spots in this are pink or red, and the not so good are purple. Well, where's Lincoln on that map?
In the purple. Yorkville.
That's Lincoln right there. Lincoln is all purple. Okay? And so Lincoln is not a very good place. But I might perceive it as windy here.
And why is Lincoln purple?
Lincoln is purple mainly because of the geography of the area. It actually kind of sits in a little bit of a hole.
I thought that was a wives' tale, they used to be, no?
It kind of is, it's kind of true. And why exactly, I don't know, because really the topography isn't very much different, but the wind speeds are significant enough that I really would not want to put a wind turbine there. And the proof is in the turbine. There's 2 turbines that are north of Lincoln that sit about right here in that dot, right there, and they don't do near as well as the ones that are put. There's some in that little red spot, there's some in this red spot, there's some, a whole bunch up in this red spot up here, and these do almost twice as good as the ones in Lincoln. And that's not the turbine's fault, it's the placement. We have to put a turbine in a good place. So what's a good place? We know it in the geography what's a good place, but if I was trying to find a good wind spot, where am I to go?
Mountains.
Mountains, up high.
On top of a large hill.
On top of a big hill, absolutely. Would I want to be in the forest?
No.
Not necessarily, because what happens with trees?
They block
They block the wind, they slow everything down. What about buildings?
Slow.
They slow the wind down, they spin. So I gotta be out in the country, I gotta be up on a hill if it's there, or out in where it's very flat.
Or top of the building.
Top of a building, there's good reasons to say that's not a good spot. Mainly because you can cause vibrations in the building, and it's just not a good thing. And as well as you can't get them high enough above the building to make it work for you. Buildings aren't very good spots. But so I need to be out in the open, and that's where the Great Plains, if we were to look at a national map, I don't think I got my national, I may have it actually. National map. Here's my national map. And the purple is the really, really windy parts of the United States. What geographic region would I call that purple area if I was going to name it?
Midwest.
Well, it depends on who you talk to. The Midwest, to most people, is going to be this area right here. So this is what we kind of forget about when we live in Nebraska. We think we live in the Midwest, but for the rest of the world we live in.
Tornado.
Well, it is Tornado Alley, but that's not what they call it, but that's not the geographic region. The Great Plains. So the Great Plains are here, and guess where all the good wind is?
Right there.
And what is over here that causes there to be less wind? Lots of trees. What's over here that causes there to be less wind? Lots of mountains, right? And mountains are okay, but they cause wind, they break the wind up and slow it down. And so that whole area of the Great Plains is a great, great spot. Do I want a wind turbine low to the ground?
No.
Do I want a wind turbine up high?
Yeah.
Why do I want it up high?
Because more wind. Because then it catches more.
Why is there more wind up there?
Less obstacles.
There's less obstacles. There's less stuff to slow it down. Down here at the ground level, there's lots of stuff to slow it down. Up there, there's not. Wind turbines are going to stay tall and big. They're going to stay tall because if they get up there in the winds. They're going to stay big for that reason we talked about earlier, that big wind turbines catch a lot of wind, little wind turbines catch a little wind. And if I have a little wind, I can only turn that into a little bit of power. If I can have a lot of wind, I can turn that into a lot. All right, we're getting close to building. Our challenge today is to design and build 2 types of turbines. But we also have a challenge in our turbine design, and that is performance. We can build a turbine and it can look beautiful, but if it doesn't perform, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It has to perform, and the performance is in the quantity of electricity that we can produce. Actually, the rate of electricity we can produce in this case, and that's the power. And so we're going to measure that in a term called, actually we're going to measure that in voltage. And so we're going to measure the voltage, and if we're going to build a wind turbine for a remote location, for a cabin, and we really need to run a light so that we can have lights at night. And to run that light so that I can read at night in my cabin, I need 1.0 volts. Right? If I test my turbine over there and I get 0.75, did I get enough? No, because that is smaller than 1. So I need to get 1 volt. So what I want you to do in your design, after you build your turbine, you're going to build the turbine itself, then you're going to design a set of blades, you're going to test that set of blades, and we're going to try to get 1 volt. We're going to make those blades out of a couple different things. I've got blade materials. Got blade materials here. So here's a piece of blade material. Again, this is one of our limitations. One of our constraints is I can make blades for big wind turbines are made out of fiberglass. These are made out of paper. And that's your limitation is A, you have to make it out of paper. This is a dowel. It's going to be what I'm going to glue to the blade. This is not a blade in itself. You don't want to design a blade and cut it out of this. I'm going to glue it to that blade, and then I can actually take that blade, and here's my hub. So we saw the top of the turbine, and here's the top of my turbine, and here's my hub, and it's going to just attach there. And then these blades I unscrew the hub, pull it apart just a little bit, and I can stick the blade in, tighten it up, and there's my blade on my hub. I can have 1 blade, 2 blades, 3 blades, 4 blades, 6 blades, 8 blades, 9 blades, 12 blades. What's the best?
3.
I'm not telling you, you guys have to test and find out. Right? That's what this is all about. You guys can choose. Now, I will tell you that there is a problem with 12 blades. And that is you're going to be cutting forever. You're going to be doing a lot of work to try to test it. So I would suggest testing with a lower number, maybe like 2, 3, 4, 6. Something like that. Okay? And this, my blade is going to be like this. Now that's my 1 blade. Okay? Now, when I place a blade on that turbine, if it's perfectly flat, is it going to spin when the wind hits it?
No.
No, the wind is just going to hit it. If I tilt it a little bit, then the wind hits it, causes it to go this way. That's called the blade pitch, and you need to select a blade pitch. Now, for today's experiment, we don't really have a lot of time to test different blade pitch angles, but we're going to set those at about a 10-degree blade pitch, and we'll show you how to do that. So that's just a very slight tilt. When you go home and try to test this and different things, you might try different blade pitch angles to see which one is the best. That's my 1 turbine. You can have lots of different numbers. Now, my other turbine is going to be that horizontal axis type where I'm up. And in that case, it's going to be a little different to build blades. One way I can build blades is use cups. Somewhat like that cup anemometer we used outside, where I'm going to take and put a hole in these cups and glue, and maybe touch of glue, and put 2, 3, 4 cups on. And there's my cup anemometer where I'm catching the wind in the cup. I could also be a little bit more creative. That's one way. And I could try to cut one in half and build, I'm not holding it very well. And I could build my curved piece and my other curved piece and try to build one that's horizontal, right? I want you to build both of those if you can, but start with one, get it tested, and we'll see how much time we have. And what we're trying to do is to get that 1 volt. If and when you get that 1 volt, then we can hook your wind turbine to a light bulb and see if we can light the light bulb. But if it can't reach a volt, it won't light the light bulb.
What if it reaches 10 volts?
It'll light the light bulb really bright.
What if it breaks the light bulb?
The chances of it reaching 10 volts are
Not very likely. I'd be impressed. I've never seen 10 volts out of one of these. But what's that?
How do you measure it?
We're going to measure. That's a good question. Over here is our testing station. And when we come with our testing station, we're going to hook our generator up to our wires, and the electricity, the excited electrons are flowing down through. They're going to go through this resistor. It's like a fake light bulb, but it's so that we know how much resistance it is, and then we're just going to measure across using a multimeter. The only thing that I'm not going to send you home with, I'm actually not going to send you home with two things. One is a multimeter, which your dad might have in his toolbox, or if I was going to get one, I would go to Harbor Freight because I'd get one for $5 at Harbor Freight. At Walmart, they're expensive. They're like $30, but you can get them for $5 at Harbor Freight. The other thing is one of these wind speed devices, which you can build using a ping pong ball and a protractor. And I'm going to give you instructions on how to do that at home if you'd like to. Okay? Now, listen to me before we get started. We're going to go back in the back of the room, and you're all going to get all your parts to your turbines, and you're going to come back to your seat. And then you're going to, one at a time, starting over here, you're going to go back and you're going to drill holes in your board with me. But while you're sitting at your table, you need to be putting the tape on your turbine motor, and you put a couple layers of tape on, try and get it to stick inside that nacelle so it stays in there and it's not loose like this. It needs to kind of stay in there steady. And so you're just going to make it bigger by putting tape around it. That's what you're doing at your table. If you're still waiting to do your board over there, you can start your turbine blade design, and there's blade materials and all that back here. There is a set of wires and dowels and things. Let's pick those up at the end of class because those are your take-home stuff. That's the stuff you're going to take home and be able to experiment with at home. And we're not going to actually open those today and use them. You can experiment with those at home. Do you have any questions about the turbines? Yes.
So if you're going to grab one of the motors without tape, you're going to grab 3 pieces because that's what we're going to need, okay?
3 pieces of tape. That's how they'll make it big enough that it'll stick in there properly. There is a, hold up one of those towers. There is a hole, the towers. There is a hole in one of the towers. You can decide whether you want that hole at the top or the bottom. But what's going to happen is that the wires are going to come out that hole so that they're not coming out underneath the base of the turbine. And if you come out the top, you're going to have this loose wire that you're going to have to tape to the base. I suggest putting it at the bottom, but it's going to be a little bit trickier to put that wire through the tube and get it to come out that hole, right? Because you want that wire to come down through the tube. Let's see if we can, I won't get it done, but we can try it.
You can make the hole go at the top, which would make it easier than go.
It would be, I think it's going to be easier if it's out the top, but I think the bottom would be nicer. In this case, I would have a vertical axis turbine, and I would be putting this wire, these wires down through here. And then I'm going to try to get them all the way through, and then catch them and come out that hole there, so that when I drill my hole in my board, they're not coming out through there. And so I'm just going to shuffle that down, and then I can try to catch them with my fingers. Actually, it's not that bad. I catch them with my fingers and push them through that. Okay? And so then to stick this tower to the board, once you have a hole in your board, you're going to use a little hot glue. There's some hot glue back here. The boards, I will tell you something really quick. The boards, the center of the board is not marked. If you want to mark the center of the board, you guys can try to figure out how to mark the center of your board with the dot.
I know how to.
Okay. I'll let you guys figure that out.
Oh, what?
There's the boards. Hold up one of those boards.
Fine, no, but you said mark the middle with what?
With the dot. We need to drill a hole in that to put this through.
I don't think I do.
What's the center?
The middle.
Just gonna guess, it's out there somewhere. That's good enough. Probably be if you guess. You want to guess? But if you want it to be perfect, I want you to mark the center. And you can mark the center by measuring across, drawing an X across, and you know that X is the center. Okay? All right, are you guys ready to go?
Yeah.
That's actually pretty good. You're right.
On the very end, just grab
So this way.
I'll give this to her.
If she's not here in a few minutes, go ahead and get started.
No, you can just choose any one of
Where's
them.
that one off?
That's on the very top.
Is there?
Yeah.
I think I have now, one everything else except the little bag. You guys can come back and get blade material a little bit if you need, or the rest of your stuff. You might have to take more than one trip.
I'm gonna use it.
You just take a picture of the cat. At my house. I'll wait over here for you to use. I can draw you.
See, it's still what you do. Put it around there, so it's a little bit.
On that. Can you grab me a boil?
For their blade.
Yeah, these are just getting You'll take one of those. And then the rest of
I only have one.
So, and then can you look, document with this tape? You can rip it in. It's.
Wait, you need this down there?
Oh, it's on the side of this. That's far enough. Yep. You just need to be, maybe halfway in a little more, and you need to be halfway stuck in there. You don't want to be loose. Yep, that's actually good. It's not tight. It's Okay, now, what you're gonna do is wait your turn. So you kind of hold your board and do this. So what I would do is once you wire through, and then start on the right. A little bit.
We'll go in. Oh, Austin, do you make scissors? What you have to use what? Tape. Alright, what am I supposed to do? Yes.
Just a second, get your other thing good. I'm gonna start doing the boards down here. Okay. Set your stuff down and bring your board. Yep, you come back to that. Don't need one.
Oh, I know. Okay, bring back scissors, Austin. Keep your scissors. Keep your scissors. Where's the goat?
Do we can hold it more? Right here. Okay. I would put it on. This way. So run that wires. You don't have to, but that'd be really good. Okay. I want you to put it last time. And then you can, when you get done, you'll glue your thing.
Okay, that's all over there. Okay, that's awesome. I already got some more. You need those. I said, I know, I'm going. I like You don't know where
Give that to the next person.
How many of those things do you have to put on? Once you don't get hits, like this. But it's so fun, you get to do the gel like. The drill this year is better than the drill last year. Were you kids subscribed? Were you in kids subscribed? It looks just as like, stop laughing. I mean, I was I didn't do this. Oh, so you're not doing this well. Okay, how old?
You can't. No, this is perfectly fine.
Whoa, what's that?
I would, this is, works good.
Let's just-
Other thought is to put on the end.
Oh, yeah, way past, yeah.
Because then you just don't have to think about it.
Did you put this on?
Right there, wherever you think is good.
I don't have a whole punch. So what I would do is you might be able to just.
I don't even know what
How you doing?
And how do you put this on?
What are you trying to do?
You don't.
Okay.
You know that.
Works.
What? Yeah.
Let's just push.
Instead of cutting out.